If you already have HID lights installed on your Goldwing low beams, you love the bright white light you're getting from those HID lights. However, you may not like that your stock halogen high beam bulbs don't match the color of the HIDs. They give off more of a yellowish light. Well, now the guys at SoCal Moto Gear have come up with a high-powered LED replacement bulb for your high beams. They put out a very bright light with great side visibility. The LEDs work great with headlight modulators, but you should note that they don't throw a farther light down the road than your stock headlights, but they do produce a very bright white wide beam. The low beam headlight bulbs on a Goldwing are accessed pretty easily through the front fork tunnel. The high beams, on the other hand, well, it's not quite that simple. We do have to remove both the left and the right glove box so that we can gain access to the back of the headlight bulbs. 2012 owners will have to remove the headlight adjuster panel to have access to the high beams. The first step is to remove the left side glove box, but first we must remove this piece of plastic trim on the left side of the shelter. We must remove this plastic trim piece to get access to the glove box, and the best way is to start at the bottom, use your fingers and get on the inside edge and pull toward the outside, and it will release these clips that hold this trim piece in place, and then you pull it out from the front toward the back. As you can see here, there's a small tab at the top that fits into the shelter, and that's why you have to start at the bottom. You don't want to risk breaking that tab. On a 2012, the trim piece is a little different. It's this flat black plastic piece here, and it's held in place with two large nylon pins at the bottom and a series of smaller clips all the way up the side toward the top. And again, we want to start at the bottom left corner. Put your fingers under this little lip there. There's just enough room to get your fingers under there and pry it up just enough to release that outside nylon pin, as you can see there. Then you can work your fingers over toward the inside of the shelter and pop out that second nylon pin, as you see. And then once those are free, you could begin pushing in on the outside edge, and it will release those smaller clips all the way up, and then you pull it out toward the back of the bike, because there is a little tab at the end of the piece that fits into the front of the shelter. When you open the glove box door, you'll notice that the glove box is held in place by 4 plastic rivets. Now these are very easy to remove. Using the end of a screwdriver or a sharp instrument, press in the center of the rivet. Then get your fingernail underneath the edge and lift it out. That's all there is to it. With the 4 rivets removed, you can now lift the glove box out of the opening in the shelter, but be aware there may be wires attached, such as an auxiliary audio cable or a power plug cable. Make sure these are disconnected before you remove the glove box completely. Next, we have to remove the foot warmer door switch assembly. Place masking tape over the foot warmer doors on both sides to make this easier. First, we must release the cable from its holder by pulling where you see the green tip. Simply reach inside and pull it toward you and it will come free. With the cable free, we can now remove the barrel tip from its holder. You may find this easier if you move the switch to the open position and then work the barrel tip out of its holder. You can simply pull the knob from the switch assembly post as shown. Place a small flathead screwdriver in the small slot on the plate and pop it off and set it aside. A single Phillips screw holds the entire switch assembly in place. Go ahead and remove this screw now. With the screw removed, you can now work the entire switch assembly out of place and set it aside. To remove the right glove box, we must remove this plastic trim piece like we did on the left side, starting at the bottom and pulling toward the outer edge. You can release the clips. Now the glove box is held in place with 2 Phillips screws and 2 of those plastic rivets. So we begin by removing the rivets and setting those off to the side, and then we will remove the 2 screws. Next, we need to remove the glove box door cable from the glove box assembly. So simply pop out the cable and release the barrel from its holder. It's very important to remember that you reconnect this cable during the reassembly process, because any failure to reconnect this cable when you shut the glove box door, there's no way to get access to the glove box without taking the top shelter off. With the glove box removed, you now have access to the back of the high beam bulb. On the 2012 Goldwing, we're going to remove it much like we did on the left side. We start at the bottom right-hand corner to release the first nylon pin, work our hand underneath to get the second pin released, and then push in from the outside to release the smaller clips all the way up the edge until we get to the top, and then we pull it backward, pull it out of the shelter like this. And with the trim piece removed, you can see the two nylon pins that hold it in place and the two openings in the fairing. Now we can remove the two 5mm hex bolts that hold the headlight adjustment panel in place. With the bolts removed, the panel simply flips up and pulls free from the shelter. You may need to unlock the windshield on that side to get it out. When you lift the panel up, you'll notice a wiring harness underneath and a large rubber boot, and you can slide that rubber boot down the wire to reveal the electrical connector. Pull up on the small gray tab and then flip the gray lever over to release the connector. Now you can remove the panel and set it off to the side. Underneath the headlight adjuster panel, you'll notice the cruise control unit and bracket assembly, and we have to move this out of the way to get access to the headlight bulb. Now we have to remove the bolt that's connected to this cable tie, and there's also another 8mm bolt down below right here that we have to remove, and we remove both of those bolts using an 8mm socket. Go ahead and remove both of these bolts using an 8mm socket and set the bolts off to the side. You will remove the wire tie as well. With the bolts removed, you can now maneuver the cruise control unit out of the way. You don't have to actually unplug it or disconnect it, just enough to where you can get your hand up underneath to get to the bulbs. Removing the high beam bulb is done mostly by feel. You can't really look up in there and do it at the same time. You just have to kind of reach up into the shelter until you find the back of the headlight bulb. Now what you're going to find is a plug, and you must pull on that plug to remove it from the back of the headlight bulb, and this is what it will look like with the plug removed. With the plug removed, you can now remove the rubber water seal boot around the light bulb. Simply locate the tabs and pull it free. A wire retaining clip holds the bulb in place, and to release this clip, you press where shown, press toward the front of the bike and then down, and it will swing out of the way. There's a little hinge on the right, and it will just kind of swing over. Then you should be able to grab the prongs and carefully pull the bulb completely out. With the bulb removed, you can now see the H4 adapter, which is the part that plugs into the motorcycle, and then the H7 bulb, which is from kind of the silver base all the way to the right in the picture. Now we must separate the bulb from the adapter so that we can replace it with a new bulb. Now here you can just kind of pry that bulb out of that adapter base. Just carefully wiggle it back and forth and it will come out. And you can see the two prongs on the back of the bulb. Now you can insert your high-powered LED into the H4 adapter as shown. Now when you go to reinsert the headlight bulb into the bike, you pretty much have to do it by feel. There's no way to really see up in there and do it at the same time. So it's important to know there is a small alignment tab on the base of this bulb, and this will go in the up position so that when the bulb is inserted into the back of the headlight unit, that will be at the very top, as you can see here in this picture. After you reinsert the bulb into the back of the unit, make sure you flip the metal spring clip over and hook it back up from the bottom as shown so that it will hold the bulb in place. Replace the rubber boot around the bulb assembly and fix it into place so that it is sealed properly. Now you can reattach the plug to the two prongs on the back of the bulb adapter.